In this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between quantitative and qualitative approaches to research. Although frequently presented as polar opposites, these really should be viewed as more of a continuum of approaches with mixed methods in the middle. The decision to use quantitative versus qualitative research approaches should be driven by the problem at hand, or your research question. Let's start by understanding some of the fundamental differences between the two types of research. Quantitative research assumes a fixed reality that is measurable. The objective of quantitative research is to understand the what and to generalize results across a population. The objective of qualitative research is to understand why people do certain things. In quantitative research, this approach requires a larger sample that hopefully can be statistically representative of a population, if properly collected. Data collection in quantitative is fixed. It is a set of mostly close-ended questions that should be exactly replicated for each participant. Data are generally collected through measurement and analyzed using statistical inferences. The analysis of data is usually done using statistical techniques, such as descriptive statistics, correlational, or in some cases predictive modeling. If you look through quantitative studies, you'll notice a lot of the data findings are reported in statistical terms, such as p-values, confidence intervals, hypotheses, and things of that nature. The U.S. Census is a great example of a large-scale quantitative research in action. Census takers survey households and then use the data to objectively determine in which districts to allocate funding. Let's look at the other side of this data. Qualitative research assumes a dynamic or negotiable reality. Qualitative research is much more about understanding why or how and uncovering insights regarding feelings and motivations. Thus, qualitative research requires a much smaller number of participants. Data collection in qualitative is guided by discussion, is dynamic and flexible. This gives very rich and descriptive data, and it takes potentially some more time to analyze. Data in qualitative can be interviews, participant observations, artifacts such as photos and videos, lesson plans, and even numbers. Qualitative analysis is based on observation and interpretation. It is generally descriptive. This usually involves a documented coding process. Generally, qualitative data are reported out to the readers as quotes from the participants. When I think of qualitative studies, I immediately think of interviews about students' perceptions on a topic or researchers trying to understand the essence of becoming a principal. Mixed methods approaches would be using a blend of both qualitative and quantitative to produce a higher order synthesis or to answer research questions that could not be addressed with just one approach. Mixed methods might involve collecting quant and qual data at the same time, called concurrent, or using one form of data to inform another form of data, which is called sequential. An example of a mixed methods study would be Sarah Goldrick-Rabb's book, Paying the Price, in which she describes Pell Grants and student loan information presenting quantitative data about borrowing and qualitative data from interviews with 7 students about their use of the financial aid system. So when should you use each of these approaches? Objectives for research always begin with an action verb. So if your stated objectives call for describing large-scale trends, comparison of differences, determining whether or not relationships exist, or if you are interested in predicting an outcome, these would indicate quantitative approaches. Qualitative approaches are used to develop initial understandings of an issue or problem, or to understand what motivates people to do something. Your goal is to identify, describe, or explore, then you're more likely to be doing qualitative research. Mixed methods research is used when you need both approaches to fully understand the problem. For example, if you ask the wrong questions in a quantitative survey or ask them the wrong way, the results will probably be meaningless. So a qualitative research might be used on the front end of quantitative to uncover the language that participants use to describe things, identify relevant questions, and develop a comprehensive list of potential responses for a survey item. It may also be used to refine messages that will be tested quantitatively or narrow down options that will move into more quantitative testing. Conversely, qualitative research could be used on the back end of a quantitative study to explain findings that were unexpected. So, if we saw that responses were significantly different for males versus females, in a mixed methods approach, we might want to consider using an in-depth exploration by interviews to uncover or understand why we have these gender differences. So the first step in determining whether to use quantitative or qualitative approaches is to examine the research problem. If you want to know what someone does, you want to think about taking a quantitative approach. And if you want to know why someone does something, you want to consider using a qualitative